Do you enjoy the occasional overshare or trauma dump, as they say? This is not trauma dump, but oversharing with close friends or family can sometimes make you question your own sanity and even the progress that you're making on your healing journey. It's highly sensitive, personal, and for each one of us, it's our own heroic tale in a way. And then naturally, of course, you want to share this with the people closest to you. But if it's not received with the grace and the care that it deserves, it can often backfire and even be damaging. When I first began therapy in this journey, I was very quickly obsessed with the whole thing. In a way, this is really challenging my sense of personal reality and the cast I had of myself, which I'll go over in a minute. And not fully understanding what I was really working on yet, I was very excited to share my personal mission with my family and friends, and I'd go over the new books I was reading, the things my therapist shared with me, and the quote-unquote enlightened insights I had gained that day. And then, when I finally took a breath and checked my parents' face, nodding with a sense of you know what I'm saying? Right. I just got a confused and indifferent look back. It was all very quickly dismissed as, this healing crap is something your generation is now all woo-woo new age stuff talking about. Why are y'all talking about this? We never had this back in my day. Back in my day, I had a tap on my shoulder and a chunk of cheese and was told to get on. There's a war going on across the globe, son. Nobody cares about this stuff. My mom usually took a very defensive stance, Well, we didn't know any better. And no matter how much we try or how hard we tried, parents will always mess up. Well, sorry I was such a bad mother. And you turned out all right. I really love my mother, but sometimes I didn't know my intent of sharing, so it wasn't met with what I wanted to receive. And the same happened with my friends. I'd share this with my friends or unsuspecting party attendees, and then after my third beer, they stood no chance with my barrage of self-inflated oversharing of what I was going on. And it also was met with well, cool dude, I hope that goes well for you. And even the friends who knew me and my family for quite some time, they'd be like, are you sure, dude? It really seemed from the outside that your parents were some of the chillest people on earth. Are you sure about this? Are you sure that's what you're dealing with? Or people that, maybe you sense that they're dealing with their fair share of trauma and you try to approach it and maybe they're still in denial about how it's affecting their life. And then that backfires, with a lot of pushback. Because most people outside of, most people don't understand complex PTSD or trauma. It's very hard to comprehend the skewed sense of reality that creates. But, for us, I was just so eager to share, and I didn't begin to really rein it back until it started to sting. I'd go home and continuously get into this pointless circular argument with my parents. I'd feel shame for even bringing it up. It didn't go anywhere. And then I could finally see that my friends were actually fed up with me bringing it up so much. They really wanted me to shut up while I was trying to get some understanding and support. The whole attempt just became very invalidating, and my tries for connection were very easily dismissed or ignored. And of course, I'm a hard learner, so it took me some time to understand that I better keep it to myself. And then I started to ask questions, what am I actually doing with this? What is my intent in sharing and what is going wrong? And it wasn't really, I wasn't really fully aware of my intent was. There was a need for validation in my shares, not just an authentic share to connect. There was an aim to get people to see my struggles or point of view and agree with it to some extent. And this then puts the worth of my shares into their response. So if they validate it, I feel a sense of worthiness. If they don't, I feel worthless and dismissed. So in turn, it would pop the bubble. Oh, well, am I wrong then? Am I seeing this completely weird? Is what I went through actually true? Am I being too sensitive? Am I actually that traumatized? It was very invalidating, and then questioning when you're going through such a raw process is very tough. So here's an analogy of like the cast, right? So imagine you get hit by a bus. You break all your bones in your body and you get cast and propped up in a hospital bed, top to bottom, and people come by and they sign their name and a little message like, I hope you get well and here's some flowers and I'm so sorry. Now, the cast see this as an image that the people around you have of you in their mind, right? Through a series of interactions, people create a cast or a mold of you in their mind, and that's how you fit into it, right? It's like a quick and easy heuristics for them to like, oh, this is so and so, and this is how he fits into the mold. This is what I can expect from this person, and this is how they usually respond, and how I can joke with them, and how I go about. Now, then when you start healing and you start squibbling outside of the lines of the cast and you start talking about healing and this and trauma, it quickly becomes alarming to people who are not open to receive this, that you are squibbling outside of the cast. Like you don't fit the mold of what they have of you in their mind. So it quickly, it becomes a reaction for someone to fit you right back into the mold. They might even bully you back into this mold. And if you don't fit, it's hard to have, an open conversation if they're not willing to see you as expansive beyond this and ever changing in a way. Of course, this sounds very rigid, but it does happen because what you're dealing with is very sensitive and raw. So then in a sense, keeping it to yourself and having the discernment of who you share all this stuff with becomes like a form of self-care. You honor yourself, because healing is raw, vulnerable, and it's usually not yet stable. Like I felt very unstable in the beginning and still, throughout the process, I'm not like a stable new version of myself, right? And through now discerning who I could share this with, it's easier for me to not like get jabbed trying to get validation for sharing. Like I keep it to myself. Now this, doesn't mean that you shouldn't share at all. Like if outside of a therapist, you see that there are some people who are open to hearing your story, it can be very validating to share and open a conversation and even like compare notes. After some time, it took me like a couple years of keeping it to myself when I found some people who I could share with. And this time around, it wasn't so much about, getting them to see or understand or validate. It was like a place of connection. So all in all, I think healing is a very curious thing, and it's important for you to guard it and to keep it safe and to really discern when and where it's good for you to share. It's sensitive. It's a sensitive part of you, and until you get onto like a very stable other side of it, like there's no need for other people who may not be able to like share or understand, give their stamp on it, right? So with self-love, keep that thing going. Peace.